Our first guest tonight, furious over the counterintelligence powers used against an opposition party's presidential campaign. Joining us tonight is Congressman Ron DeSantis. Congressman DeSantis is a member of a number of important committees, including Oversight and Government Reform, Foreign Affairs, and the Judiciary Committee. He's also the leading Republican candidate for governor of the great state of Florida. Congressman, good to have you with us. Let's turn to what we learned today from pre-staff and to the degree that you can share that, and the committees that were in a closed-door hearing to hear his testimony. Strzok is now, has been from the very beginning, it seems, at the epicenter of this, at the center absolutely of the scandal at the FBI and the Justice Department. Now it looks like he played an even larger role than anyone imagined.
I'll tell you, Lou, there's been few people that have done so much damage to the reputation of the FBI than this guy, Peter Strzok. Now, we've been following him for a long time. Remember, He was the one that bent over backwards to try to help Hillary. He was editing Comey's statement in ways that lessened her culpability about foreign interception of her emails. He's the one that changed the language from gross negligence to extremely careless to try to get it out of the statute. And then he turns around after Hillary's exonerated and opens up a counterintelligence investigation on the Trump campaign based off the supposed conversation between Papadopoulos and Alexander Downer, which we now know, Lou, Downer did not report any emails. He just said that someone had said that there's dirt on Russia. So there wasn't even an email basis. So as thin as read as possible. And then, of course, the text messages that evince his anti-Trump bias. He wanted Hillary to be president, and he hated Donald Trump with a passion. So I think this really just underscores the problems that you and I have been talking about with this investigation, these dual investigations for a long, long time.
Do you have some insight, because you have been among those who've been able to follow this throughout? It's been an extraordinary journey. You know more because of what you've been able to read, to hear in closed-door sessions. Why there was such a visceral hatred of candidate Trump, and what was the great threat to these agents and to the Department of Justice? Was it just sheer fear of being found out, what they had done to cover up for Hillary Clinton? Your thoughts about their motivation and the reasons that they went to such extraordinary, un-American lengths to subvert a president?
Well, look, I think that Hillary was the consummate insider swamp candidate. And the people who are part of the permanent political class here, obviously people who are elected, but also high bureaucratic officials, I think they're much more comfortable with Hillary. Donald Trump is coming after this. I mean, he's like a sledgehammer to the D.C. swamp. He's an outsider from the inside the Beltway mentality. And I think that they just viewed him as somebody that was going to upend the apple cart, and they didn't want that. And so maybe some of it's ideological, but I think it's much more that just Trump was an outsider that was really going to upend Washington, and I don't think they wanted that.
Yeah, and the disruptor against the establishment, the deep state, and I do think ideology played some role here, if I can disagree with you, at least at the margin in one area. Let's turn to that president who is today tweeting about, again, another delay from the Inspector General in that report being disseminated. He tweeted this: "What is taking," if we can put that up, "what is taking so long with the Inspector General's report on crooked Hillary and slippery James Comey? Hope the report is not being changed and made weaker." Your reaction?
Well, that's I think the fear is that the report gets presented to the Justice Department, who then has a period to review it, potentially suggest edits, redactions. And as we've seen, Lou, there's been a big problem with how Rosenstein and some of the folks at the FBI have handled Congress's request for documents when they redact a lot of things that have nothing to do with law enforcement sensitivity or national security. They redacted the fact that Andrew McCabe McCabe, they spend $700 on some table with taxpayer money for his office. So they're doing redactions more to protect the bureaucracy from accountability than they are to protect national security or law enforcement sensitivity. So if that is going on with this report, if they're trying to redact or change it to lessen the truth about how some of these high officials like Comey, McCabe, and Strzok behave, that's a big, big problem. If it's just a matter of being thorough, look, I wanted it yesterday, I wanted it 3 months ago, but if we get a thorough report tomorrow or Monday and it actually leads to referrals on Comey, on these people who colored outside the lines, then I'm going to be fine with that. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
If you guys in Congress and the Senate don't have the energy and the spirit to march on the Justice Department, if there is redactions of an extraordinary number, if there are alterations in this report that the American people have been waiting for 6 months longer than we were told it would take to have that report before us, and we are told that the Inspector General is a man of integrity. But if this is another whitewash over the corruption of the FBI and the Justice Department, I mean, what in the world are you going to do?
Well, you're right, Lou. I mean, ultimately, Congress is going to actually have to use some of its powers, whether that's the power of the purse, whether it's the power of contempt, to actually hold people accountable if they're trying to do that. This is not, it's been longer than 6 months. This started January of 2017. Right. So we're almost a year and a half into this thing. And that's part of the problem. When it takes this long, it becomes more difficult to hold people accountable. So this thing's gone on way too long. And we need it, and we need a clean report. And if there are redactions, we've got to take issue with that.
And I think you just explained why Rod Rosenstein and the others behind the stone wall are doing just that. Slow walking, stonewalling the entire oversight process and the public's right to know. It is terrible. Your leadership, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, my gosh. You know, I can't understand why the Republicans have not, particularly in the House, why you guys are putting up with it. Can you tell us that? Why are you putting up with a lame duck speaker who will still be in office in January of 2018? Do you know how that makes the conference look?
Well, we are working I think you're going to have a number of us go to the speaker and say, look, here's the documents we need. We need them to be declassified. The president's willing to play ball with us on it, but we need the push from the Congress, and we need someone that's going to be willing to back that so that we get the American people the truth. In terms of how the leadership thing shakes out, look, I don't understand the way it's going because you're right. I mean, I don't know that having a lame duck makes sense, but that's nevertheless the direction we are on now. What I'm trying to do is get all this stuff because, like you said, Lou, they want to run out the clock. And if they're allowed to run out the clock, look, I actually think we're going to keep...
if they run you into the midterms, you're going to pay the price for it, not them. And that is the frustrating part of this. Of course, I mean, why should Paul Ryan care? You know, he feeds at the trough of K Street, the Chamber of Commerce, the Koch brothers, the Business Roundtable, and Wall Street. And that's where he's going to feed the rest of his life.
But if we put our foot down on this, Lou, you do it because it's the right thing. But our voters would respond positively. They'd be willing to walk over hot coals to vote for Republicans in November. So we have it in our hands, not only to get the truth for the American people, but to set Republicans up to have a really strong midterm election.
All it takes is integrity and guts, as you well know and as you demonstrate every day.